war like a true titan. Double down. Zone B, Captain. Zone advantage is yours. Three opponents down. Double down. Yes! 3 down. Fantastic work. Your killing intent is unmatched.
Hello everyone, I am Cool Guy. Welcome back. Today's video is a battle between two powerhouse 120 RPM hand cannons, Gambits Bottom Dollar versus Trials of Osiris's Adept Igneous hammer. Now there's a third one, the regular hammer. I'm going to discuss that in a little bit as well. It's a big part of this conversation. Before I get into the review, I want to start off by saying that both of these hand cannons are incredible. Top tier, both of them. And in the review, I put them head to head. They're the same archetype, 120, both energy. Bottom Dollar is void, the hammer is solar. I have a full range chart for these that you can come back to. For range stats 64 to 100. That way you know the damage fall off. I have how rangefinder adds to the weapon, lethal combinations, and more. There's a lot to cover. And at the end, I picked a winner, at least what I think is the winner, but that winner is due to only one reason, and I'm going to talk about it. Both of them hit the right stats, they're in the meta, and unfortunately, both of these hand cannons also have a very specific quality about them. They're both a 10 out of 10 as far as difficulty to obtain. Very hard to get, extremely hard to get, but with Sunsetting Sunset, I am personally more willing to try. Now that I know that weapons are going to be here for the foreseeable future, I am willing to grind them out, if I want them. For Bottom Dollar, it's all luck, which is funny because the flavor text reads, never count yourself out. I can't tell you how many games of Gambit I've played, put it this way, I am a gilded dredgen now, and I wear it proud. Be sure to have Prosperity on your Ghost. Gambit wins have a chance to drop an additional piece of legendary gear. The drop chances could be back-to-back games, could get a double drop one game. It could be every 10 games, every 20 games. It's a very odd drop chance. It's truly RNG. And once you get it to drop, once you beat that RNG, that's stage 1. After that, you then have to defeat the final boss, a massive 9-barrel, 7-magazine, 12-node 1, 12-node 2 super pool. Then your masterwork. If you select just one of each, and then the masterwork, each one that you want, say you want this barrel with this mag, with this perk and that perk, I want this masterwork. It's an astronomical 1 out of 36,288 chance to grant the exact roll that you want. Think about that, 1 in 36,000. Now that number is going to be lower because we get 2 barrels, 2 magazines, and most of the time we're going to be happy with one perk over the other. Like if you grab Outlaw Rampage, but you wanted Rapid Hit Rampage, not one person out there scrapping that roll and deleting it. If you wanted Killing Wind Opening Shot, but got Quick Draw Explosive Payload, again, it's a great roll, you're probably not going to delete it. And I don't know how, I don't know why I was chosen, but I did defeat the final boss. I got a 5 out of 5. Hammer Forged Rifling, the most range you can get without any penalties. Accurized Rounds, most range you can get for a magazine. Range Masterwork, Outlaw, Multi-Kill Clip. It is absolutely perfect. I actually run it like this with Polygonal, or I can run Tac Mag with an Icarus Grip. I wanted this roll bad. It's the same perk combination I had with Loud Lullaby. I have some other rolls, Killing Wind Wellspring, it's got Corkscrew, Steady Round, Stability Masterwork. There's 4th Time's a Charm with Demolitionist, Rapid Hit Thresh. I'm gonna come back to Bottom Dollar, talk about base stats versus the hammer, perk combinations, what to look for. A lot of that's gonna fall within what range stat you get. And again, I'm gonna bring up the chart later. But for the hammer, this is the Adept version. I spent 30 hours that Trials weekend getting them, a weekend where I left a little bit of my soul out there on Exodus Blue. Now the first 4 drops I got had Celerity. After I went Flawless, I did some Mercy cards where I didn't get a drop of the hand cannon at the end, so it's just a waste of time. I had to do Confidence cards where you can get up to 3 drops at the end. Sometimes you get 3 hand cannons, sometimes 2 out of 3, sometimes only 1. I had 2 times where I got 3 hand cannons, so I got 15 total. Near half of them had Celerity. My dream roll is still Outlaw or Rapid Hit with Rampage, but most of all, Killing Wind Rampage. I want you to know, again, I am an advocate for getting this loot right. Any chance that I get, I throw out that it needs to be more accessible to players, to get these weapons in their hands, every chance I get when it's brought up. Just know that. It's like a lose-lose, because I grinded this out to review it. I don't take account. I wanted to see how the Adept mods change a weapon, and then I grinded out Bottom Dollar. And then a lot of people didn't get the hammer after just trying their heart out. It just feels really bad, it really does. Hopefully it comes back as at least a 3-win, and even though it's not Adept, it's definitely worth your time. On screen is the base stat comparison. Bottom Dollar is in green on the left, hammer is on the right, and it's yellow. The hammer just beats it outright, everywhere, and when you masterwork the Adept version, remember it gives +2 to all stats, so the base range is at 70 and so on. It has more of a focused perk pool, it's more forgiving. They have the same barrels, the magazine is slightly different, Bottom Dollar has exclusively steady rounds, tac mag, accurized rounds, the hammer has armor piercing, high cals, ricochet rounds, light mag. But the Igneous hammer has 5 perks in each node, very forgiving. In the first column, all of them are great, even subsistence, because if you pair that with rampage, you're gold. In the second column, just don't get celerity. And even one for all, however, if you want one for PvE, that's great. I ended up getting one, it's 100 range, rapid hit one for all, it works well. The likelihood of usable hand cannon is a lot better, and that's why I hope it becomes the 3-win. The Bottom Dollar wants your time, lots of it. All you have to do is play and hope for drops. The hammer wants your skill. But even then, you can still have bad luck like I did, getting 6 or 7 celerity rolls. But most players that I talked to that got a hammer that weekend, they got a good one, a serviceable one. So out of the gate, regardless of magazine or barrel, a range stat is made. You're gonna have to use Dim, Destiny Item Manager, to see what your range stat is. And with these 120s, I do half expect an adjustment to be made. Maybe bring the range in a little bit or have punishing fall off after they hit their fall off point. But here's the chart for the range stat. 64 is the base for Bottom Dollar, and the highest Bottom Dollar can get is 96 range. For it to get there, it needs full bore, range masterwork, accurized, all of it. But for that range, it's gonna have 26 stability, 33 handling, lots of sacrifices just to have that range. But as you see, the range band is fairly close. And by the way, the distance that you get, it might be different depending on how you test range. And even so, the increments from one stat to the next is correct, so just make the adjustment into your calculations. 40 meters is a really good standard for these 120s, but when you look at the rolls and you think about throwing on that full bore or a barrel that gives just a little bit more range than the other, thinking that you need 5 range stat points, just look at what you're giving up to get that +5 range or +7 range or whatever it is. Because if you do have something like 85 range and have high cals that gives you something like +5, and you compare that to a appended mag, you don't really need that +5 range going from 85 to 90. You'll get a lot more use out of the magazine count. The same goes for your barrel. Extended barrel gives +10 but has a penalty to your other stats. Let's say small bore is sitting there as your second barrel option to +7 range, +7 stability. A lot of us just go for max range, but remember, these things have it built in. Work out best stats overall. That goes for when you guys go for the regular hammer, the Adept, the Bottom Dollar, whatever it is, just stat it out for the most stats. Adept mods though on the hammer, that's where they can really help. The Adept weapon, Shadow Price, Summoner, Palindrome, Swarm, the hammer, and more. This is the future, I believe, and they're talking about doing Adept dungeon and raid weapons. The Adept mods give you a ton of freedom just to really juice out a stat or make up a compromise. Let me show you something. I have max range hammers, 100 range, but to me, first of all, on Bottom Dollar or Igneous hammer, I want the magazine. So if appended rolls on it, I'm fine with that, and more than likely I'm using that. Anything that gives more ammo, or last resort, there's the backup mag, because I feel like you really can't do what you need to do with 8 rounds. But I want to show you a max palindrome, and the palindrome is really good for a 140. It has the most range out of the 140s by a long shot. All the stats are at the top. Range masterwork, ricochet rounds, even has rangefinder. You never really cross archetype compare, because a 70 range 140 versus a 70 range 120, the bands are different. The 120 just is going to hit further. But the only reason I want to show this is that for a 140 at base, they have really high stats out of the gate. They just feel better in your hands. Here's my Killing Wind snapshot roll. I start off with having full bore on, it has ricochet, stability, masterwork, and they compare it to this palindrome. This is the freedom that you have with the Adept mods. And right here, as a side note, this is what I believe is the perfect combination for the Igneous hammer: fluted barrel and ricochet with a backup mag, or fluted with a pitted mag, and then put on Adept stability, Icarus, range, whatever it is. Because the combination right here gets all the stats really high. When you start putting these Adept mods on, it starts to match and surpass a 140, which is crazy. I have a Bottom Dollar with a stability masterwork, stability barrel, steady rounds. It barely edges out this hammer. And with you putting all of these resources into stability, all I have to do for the Adept hammer is put on Adept stability and it overcomes that. I've had 6 or so 50+ kill games with Igneous hammer, 4 with my rampage roll, 2 with this Killing Wind snapshot that has fluted. So when the hammer comes back around, there are a lot of good rolls to go for. Be mindful of the range and use the chart from earlier. The main pound for pound rolls to go for the hammer are Rapid Hit, Outlaw, Killing Wind, or Quick Draw with Rampage. But things like Killing Wind, Moving Target, they're great as well. PvE roll, it's Rampage or One for All. Back to the Bottom Dollar, what's nice? I guess it's a blessing and a curse. When it drops, you have no idea what you're in for. Bottom Dollar is the superior PvE hand cannon, perks like 4 times a charm. There's the old tried and true Outlaw Dragonfly, it's an excellent PvE hand cannon. There are so many perks, so many combinations, it isn't really worth talking about them all, but there is one perk to pay attention to that's rangefinder. It has a base range of 64. With just adding rangefinder, it takes the fall off to 42.5 meters. That's simulating an 88 range stat. If you get the range stat to 73, it goes to 44.1 meters. It's like you have 98 range. So with rangefinder, it is the most range hand cannon in the game for a 120. If you can get that max range stat of 96 that we talked about earlier, but it has poor other stats, it's gonna hit right under 50 meters. The True Prophecy that I use, it has rangefinder rampage. It has a 65 range stat. It hits at 42.7. Rangefinder is very important. If you can deal with the zoom factor, which I don't mind, you can spec into other stats, no problem, or you can just go for more range. The rangefinder version, I would take over a lot of Igneous hammers, or the crazy perk combinations you can get, like the one that I have that's Outlaw Multi-Kill Clip. I love it, and I would take it over other hammer versions. Between the two though, the Adept mods are the deciding factor. Getting multiple stats in the 70s or high 60s for a 120 is insane, and it's going to continue to be when you put it on something like Palindrome and the other weapons in the future. And I would take any bottom dollar over a celerity roll, and so on. But as far as non-adept hammer versus bottom dollar, it's really interesting because ultimately you need to see how it performs. You need to see how the perks and the stats fall, because both of them can take very wrong turns. This roll that I have on bottom dollar is really strong, but my quick draw rampage roll edges it out. And I want to be clear, there's nothing wrong with liking bottom dollar or using bottom dollar over the Igneous hammer if you have them both, because confidence is a real thing. Having confidence in a hand cannon and a weapon is very important. That's why I believe I got those 6 50+ games with the hammer. So I'm going to end with where I started. Both of them are incredible, and you might find yourself sticking to bottom dollar after you get a hammer roll. Don't be surprised if that happens. And just don't worry about getting a little +4 or +5 extra range when you can put way more stat points into other areas. Bottom dollar wants your time, it's pure RNG. The hammer wants your skill, your time, your patience, and both of them question your sanity. If you do lock one of these down that you love, you're going to be gold because sunsetting is gone. The only thing you have to worry about now is adjustments, nerfs being made, which I expect to happen. In the end, both of them are worth your time. So thank you for spending a little bit of your day with me. And if you're new here, remember to hit the subscribe button. If you are subscribed, thank you so much for your support. If you're looking for a new controller, I am partnered with Scuff Gaming. You can use the link down below and my code COOL at checkout for a discount. Let's talk about both of these hand cannons, how we obtain them, and the Adept mods. Thank you for watching, and until the next one, I am Cool Guy.